Yeah, gotta aim for the top like, hold up. Yeah, I can never doubt myself, I know better. All of you critics be acting like you know better. Blowing the smoke, but I know when the dust settles that I'm in my element. It's evident that there's levels to the game.
What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Athletes to Athletes podcast. This week, we have another featured interview for you as Reid chats with Oberlin College Associate Athletic Director Ray Appenheimer, who recently made the move to Associate AD after 20 years of coaching the track and field as well as cross-country teams at Oberlin. Ray gives his background as well as how he ended up at Oberlin, and they dig into the lifestyle of today's Division III student athlete. They also talk about recruiting and the opportunity that can be gained by going to a Division III school and the current landscape of NIL and rule changes that are surrounding college sports. As a former Division III athlete, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation here about the changing landscape at the Division III level, and I hope you do as well. As always, we appreciate you listening and watching the Athletes to Athletes podcast.
Ray, thank you so much for taking some time to hang out with me today and chat. I'm really looking forward to talking to you. I'm going to let you kind of do your big intro here in a minute and kind of give us some context to who you are and what you do. But yeah, it's funny. You and I met, what was it, about a month, 2 months ago now, kind of beginning of summer.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to take a little bit of a college tour through Ohio and found myself at Oberlin, and you and I ended up at a table for lunch. And to be honest, you just kind of let me stand on my soapbox and yell about a lot of things for like 30 minutes. And so I'm super appreciative of that. But Ray, if you'll do me a favor, just go ahead, introduce yourself, say where you are, what you do, and then we'll kind of jump from there.
Sure. My name is Ray Appenheimer. I am currently the Associate Athletic Director here at Oberlin College. I've been at Oberlin for 22 years. The first 20 of those, I was the head cross-country and track and field coach. In the last 2 years, moved into athletic administration. So I oversee budgets, finance, compliance, human resources, and I'm also the liaison with the Office of Admissions.
Awesome. Yeah, and I love you've got the admin side and the coaching side, which I think are both things that I kind of want to tap into today. And for those that may not be as familiar with Oberlin, that's no walk in the park academically. That's a pretty demanding school on the academic sides of things. It's at the Division III level. I think it really, to me, Oberlin is a really great example of these schools that I think are becoming far more popular, at least with the families that I'm talking to, where you have this opportunity to have this connection with professors. You have this high quality education that you're diving into. You have, class sizes that aren't 200 or 300 people. That's more, that's your class, for lack of a better term, as opposed to your classroom. And for so many of those reasons, I think it's becoming more and more popular with a lot of families. And so I do kind of want to just talk to you as far, kind of get your take on it, I guess, from a coaching perspective and now in the admin's perspective. Have you seen a shift in the interest, and we'll use Oberlin as our case study here, specifically from athletes kind of coming in, and are you guys getting a larger number of folks that are wanting to talk to you about opportunities at Oberlin, recruiting? Just kind of curious what you've seen landscape wise.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there is, a greater interest in kind of like the balance. Like even though we're recruiting kids who are going to showcases, who are on travel teams, but they're also folks who are really well-rounded, right? Who don't only want athletics, but like want to have a really full college experience. And that's what a school like Oberlin kind of provides, is certainly opportunities to take your athletics as far as you want. Like I was lucky enough to coach national champions, in track and field, all-Americans in cross country. But like these are the same kids who were like wrote for the student newspaper or played in jazz ensembles, who were able to study abroad, even though like they might miss a season here or a non-traditional season, right? And so it's that full whole totality of the college experience that I think families are more interested in at this point. Right. And we are seeing an uptick in applications. We're seeing a huge uptick in folks visiting over the summer. And so there's something about this moment, I think that you're right, Reid, that like the families are seeing this as, well, it's going to be better for my child. It's going to be better for my experience to not limit myself, right? Because like that's kind of one of the selling points of doing athletics at Oberlin College is there's no compromise, right? You get to have an outstanding athletic experience. You saw our facilities, with amazing facilities, with full-time great coaches, but coaches who care about your life outside of athletics as well, right? So then they're going to be at your jazz recital, like they're going to be there, like, you know, for your, like an art exhibition that you host. And that's really our wheelhouse. It is, again, it is the whole student, the whole kid, for 4 years and beyond.
Yeah, and I love, and to your point, I think that's one of the things that I'm certainly becoming more drawn to, and it's something that I've had to kind of learn myself in this process, right? Because I grew up going through that recruiting process, and I think we all kind of have at least a phase in our lives or people in our lives who say, you know, why wouldn't you go for, well, D1, 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 and there's this idea that like there's D1, and then there's sort of this just like slush fund of everybody else. And I think the more into this you get, the more you understand, man, it's not a tiering structure of one is better than the other. It's what type of experience that you want to have in college. And I think more and more kids, to your point, more and more families are making the realization that like, listen, we love sports. They're great. It's a tenet of our life. It's a tenet of our family connections and things like that. But God, I'm not going to go play for the Brewers tomorrow. It's just not
Right.
going to happen. And so if that's the case, like let's, to your point, find a place that's going to allow us to explore these other things so that when sports do eventually end from a competitive standpoint, that's something we can use to supplement our life. And it's not the thing that was keeping us above water this whole time. And I do think specifically at the D3 level, man, it really feels like that balance is struck. And I'm curious from your perspective, and now kind of going back to your coaching days here, it feels like, you know, at the D3 level, when I hear coaches talk about, man, we want our kids to do a lot of different things. We want them to experience the totality of what this university has to offer, this college has to offer. I believe it whenever I hear it from coaches at the D3 level. I sometimes believe it at D2. I rarely believe it at D1. And I think a lot of that has to do with just, you know, there's different financial situations, there are different contextual situations, there's different, you know, prioritizations in the schools and things like that. But from you as a coach at Oberlin and sort of your peers in the coaching space, do you find that at the Division 3 level, coaches are rewarded beyond just wins and losses, but in the overall sort of success, I would say, of their kids kind of on and off the field or on and off the track? I wonder if the motivators are different for you as a D3 coach versus your D2 or D1 counterparts.
I mean, it's possible, right? Like, I think
Hmm.
it's unfair to say that like all Division 1 coaches, it's only outcome and product. Like, I think
Hmm.
that's really unfair because they're wonderful human beings too, like who are stewarding these kids through a portion of their life. You know, like what we get to see though, because you know our kids, our athletes are involved in so many things, we get to see them grow in different ways. Right, we get to see them take risks, and we get to see, like, you know, in track and field, like there's like for me a really direct correlation between, like, you know, a kid joins my team their sophomore year, they train their butts off over the summer, they come in great shape, they have some success, and like they go to like the best chemistry lab on campus and get a spot in that lab, right? It's a one-to-one,
Hmm.
right? Like, so like the growth and development that we're seeing, like on the track, on the field, like on the courts, like we get to see it in other places too. We get to see them kind of becoming these full people, but not only through athletics, right?
Hmm.
And like, you know, what you were talking about earlier was spot on, but I'll do you even one better, which is having our students, allowing our students, getting these students who want more out of their college existence than just athletics makes the athletics that much better. Right. So like what I wanted when I was recruiting kids here was, I want you winning on the track, but I also want you winning in the classroom. I want you winning in the labs. I want you winning in the practice rooms. I want you to feel a sense of community everywhere you go. I want you to be cheered for every space that you're in on this campus, right? Because
Hmm.
you belong here, right? And like, because we're recruiting kids for whom that's important,
Hmm.
and they feel they're winning elsewhere. Like the thing I would often say back in the day was like, happy people run faster, right? You know, and like it's kind of a throwaway line, but it's also like the truth is, and research supports this, is like happy people are sick less, happy people are injured less, you know.
Hmm.
And if being in the chemistry lab or being in the jazz quartet or writing for the student newspaper or studying abroad, it makes you happier, gives you a greater sense of self, or a full sense of self, right? Then as your coach, I'm all for it because it's going to come out on race day. It's going to come out on match day or meet day.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that answer. And I love the nuance that you put at the beginning too. I think you're absolutely right, and that's the more correct way to put it. Coaches are coaches at the end of the day, right? Up and down
Sure.
the line, you go into that job because you want to affect young people. You want to help people grow into the best kind of person they can be. So you're absolutely right on that standpoint. I think to your point, sometimes you just have a little bit more leeway or flexibility in how you can allow kids to do that, depending on sort
No,
of where
no,
you are.
it is, you're right on about the expectation, right? Like
Mhm.
I was a Division I athlete, like you were a Division I athlete, and like the expectation was we did two things, right? We had our sports and academics,
Mhm.
right? Oftentimes in that order, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's just the way it is. And like we felt as though there wasn't time, space, whatever it is, for the other things that make life at college. And maybe that's amongst the difference of Division III. It's perspective. It is we understand that like the totality of your full experience is more than just academics and athletics.
Mhm.
And we want to foster and build and support those other aspects of your life and not say like, well, it's taking away from. No, it's not. Like it's adding to, because what we're adding to is you, like the kid, the athlete, because you're the thing that matters here. It's your growth and your journey, and how, as a coach, can I support that?
Yeah, and I think it's funny. One of the things that you and I kind of talked about back when we were sitting at that lunch table together, and what we've kind of slowly worked on is between both of our respective jobs is, kind of getting a transparent idea of what that kind of day in the life or week in the life looks like for a Division
Right,
three student. And I'm working on trying to get that for other schools as well. And I think to your point, what you find is that there's more colors on the schedule. Sort
right,
of the more you go, because there's more flexibility and more time to put more colors on the schedule. And I think a lot of kids being able to see that help them better understand at the high school level which of these fits me better, which
right,
of these makes more sense for what it is I want to have. Because I do think there are a lot of kids that go to different division schools because of whether it be external factors or lack of knowledge or whatever, right? That factor is they show up and they go, ooh, I didn't realize I had to trade this for this, or I didn't realize that this was off the table because I went and did this. And
yeah,
I think allowing kids to go in with their eyes wide open on what those opportunities are or are not really, in my opinion, would open up a lot more kids to the idea of a better fit division or a better fit institution, knowing what those different opportunities are. And so I know that's something that you and I both have tried to kind of figure out ways to better communicate to families and whatnot. There is sort of on that same note, though, what I want to talk to you about or get your take on is, one of the things that we hear about in high school all the time is like, oh, well, Division III doesn't offer athletic aid. So what am I? I mean, I want to get an athletic scholarship. That just sounds good or whatever. And we can sit here and do the numbers all we want. But can you help talk me through a little bit? So Oberlin, for example, yes, athletic aid, that's not a thing across Division III. Cool, fine, great. I think what a lot of people don't understand is the opportunity for merit aid at
oh,
those
sure,
at those different levels, and the opportunity to tap into dollars. Just because it doesn't have the word athletic in front of it doesn't mean that there isn't rich opportunity for funding opportunities, for scholarship opportunities that largely are connected to your school performance rather than sort of the variability that can attach to an athletic scholarship now and sort of the
yeah,
new day and age of pay. So can you just talk a little bit more about, and we can use Oberlin as our test case of like
sure.
just your ability to help educate families on that side of it.
No, sure. Like it's families do your research, right? Because like Oberlin is one of the few colleges left that meets 100% of your demonstrated need, right? And
Mhm.
so like you're going to fill out the FAFSA, you're going to fill out the CSS profile, and you're going to get what's an estimated family contribution, right?
Mhm.
And that is what you pay, and not a dollar more.
Mhm.
Um, like and so your financial aid is made up of grants, scholarships, small loan, but it really is, and to your point, like Oberlin's also amongst the most selective schools that still gives merit aid for great students. And like we're seeing tremendous aid packages for kids who are really taking their academics seriously, who show they're a fit for this community. And it really is like it's like, you know, I'm sure you get this a lot of time in your chair is like sticker shock.
Mhm.
Because there's no secrets here. Like the sticker shock for Oberlin College is $89,000.
Yeah.
Again, 30 some odd years ago, I thought the place I went to which was $21,000 was ridiculously priced. But like that is, you know, but we're seeing folks get like tens and tens of thousands of dollars in merit aid, right? Reducing that cost, reducing that burden. Um, you know, I would say like, as we've been talking about, like, families do your homework, not only on the financial side, but like on that fit side, because that's what really
Mhm.
matters. Like, if Oberlin's the right place for you, or selective college is the right place for you, just tell your neighbors it's a scholarship, right? That's all. It's like, like it doesn't have like, like if it's the right place for you, then stand on that. Like here's the reason why I chose this place, because I want all these different opportunities. Like, and there's other places they didn't have them. But I really do think it is about asking those correct questions from the get-go, and finding out like what are the opportunities for aid and an experience. And like that's how you find the differences between schools.
Yeah, for sure. And I think to your point, understanding the very specific phrase of sticker price, right? I think we who do this all the time are accustomed to seeing that and don't really let that deter us from going through the process, because we know that X is not going to equal Y by the end of the day ever.
Ever.
But to your point, getting families to push past that initial like, whoa, whenever they first see it is kind of
Right.
step one of that process. And I think coaches, I'm sure, are great liaisons for that, and being able to say, listen, I get it. I see the number two.
Right.
I wouldn't be talking to you if I didn't think there was an opportunity for us to make this work and fill in these gaps here. And so I do think, to your point, going through the process, so long as you're not, applying early decision immediately and locking
Right.
yourself in financially, then there's a lot, you can see what the options are, you can understand
Sure.
different pieces. And to your point, a $5,000 athletic scholarship from a school, is that more important than a $20,000 merit scholarship or academic scholarship from another school? Like, it, to your point, it comes down to what are the optics of what it sounds like versus what are you really getting as a bottom line value for what you can tap into. So
Perfect. That's
I
perfect.
think, yeah, I think at the D, and I think D3 more than many other divisions, just by nature of the makeup of those schools, have a lot more to give, or have a lot more flexibility in how they can sort of fund those different opportunities for kids. And so again, I think pushing past that initial cost is a huge step in that process, just to understand what the real dollar amount is, and
Right.
kind of going
And
from there.
and like I know our financial aid folks are like they work really hard. And even in early decision, like we can do an early financial read for folks
Mm,
in advance of the CSS profile being published. I mean, it takes some
mm,
legwork, and it does take some, like, it's like, you've got to be able to submit some tax forms so that we have a better picture of like, what your need looks like. But it
yeah.
but those like, no one wants anyone to make an uninformed decision when it comes to college on the college end.
Hmm. Yeah. And it, the more, it almost feels like when you get like realtors involved in buying a house, like if you were to just have two people talk to each other, it seems like it would probably be 9 times out of 10, it would probably be a more amicable conversation, and you get to the end of
Absolutely.
the end of the problem faster. And so it is breaking that barrier down of like, these people are not sitting up in this high castle hoping that you'll pay the most amount of money that you can. Again, we're in education. We want people to succeed. We're not
Right.
talking to you with the idea that we're going to bait and switch you. We want this to be something that works for everybody
That's right.
up and down the chute. So shifting a little bit away from the administration side and shifting more back into your coaching days a little bit here, would love to kind of get your take on, as a D3 cross country coach, what was kind of your general recruiting timeline when you were looking at kids? When did you really start to tap in and pay attention to the numbers, and did you have to do that any sooner because of academic considerations sort of throughout the recruiting process?
Yeah, I mean, so the hope was like to get on kids, the junior, the fall of their junior year, right?
Hmm.
Like to begin to identify. So you're always kind of working a cycle ahead. You're
Hmm.
still working with the seniors, but you're beginning the identification process, when they're juniors. And like, um, track and field and cross country is different in that there aren't really showcases.
Hmm.
They're like, we're not going to camps. Like you're casting a really wide net, and swimming is
Hmm.
similar. You're casting a really wide net based on times, performance, like, areas that are feeders, for your school, aspects like that. Um,
Hmm.
and then it's beginning initial conversation. Like, and then it's getting transcripts. And like to you, then that's why we need to be far out about it, because like amongst the most important kind of criteria is rigor. It is
Hmm.
like the classes you're taking and how well you're doing. Like in a place like Oberlin, what they want to see is they want to see folks who are challenging themselves throughout. Right.
Hmm.
And so like we have to see not only the transcripts, but the school profile. Right.
Hmm.
So like we might see a kid who's got a 4.0 GPA, their school offers 18 APs, they've taken one.
Yeah.
It's not, and like the kid, like, well, I'm a 4.0 kid. It's like, yeah, but it's, it's like, you missed it. Like, and that's why we try
Mhm.
to get them as early as possible in the process so that we can advise them, it's like, hey, like, how do you feel about calc? Like, how do you feel about AP stats? How do you feel about, AP English? Like these kinds of things. And like, in some ways though, Reed, it's a really good kind of like funnel for us because the students who aren't interested aren't going to be good fits here, right? You
Mhm.
really want folks like, oh, okay, got it, and they're talking to their counselor and they're switching into harder classes, and they're really up in their rigor.
Yeah, and I think the point that you just made is so important, especially as the popularity of schools like Oberlin start to increase, is that, and feel free to say it again just to really push the point home. Like, I think a lot of people assume that, oh, well, I'm really good at my sport, so that's going to offset my
Yeah.
academic record, my academic rigor. They'll make that work because I'm going to come in and do XYZ on the field, on the track, or whatever it is. Can you just give a bit of a reality check to everyone involved and like what impact the academics have on the recruiting process at a place like Oberlin?
Yeah, I'll answer it backwards first. I will tell you that our wonderful folks from admissions do not come down to our practices and tell us how to coach, right? Like they don't do that, right? And we don't walk over to admissions and tell them who to admit,
Hmm.
right? And that's how it works. Now we do get to act as advocates for the students that we're recruiting, right? And we do get to kind of like fill the narrative for them, right?
Hmm.
But the biggest part is, folks are accepted or rejected at Oberlin College often based on two criteria, right? Like, can they do the work, right? And their transcript and their test scores and their rigor will tell that story. And number two, are they a fit for this community?
Hmm.
And that matters, right? And that's where like us being able to tell the story of their extracurriculars, what they're involved in, their leadership positions, like all of these things that we get the opportunity to talk about, like that is the role that we play. And
Hmm.
like our job is to be exceedingly clear in all the different ways that they're going to plug into this place. I will tell you, it was years ago, but like I had a young man who was a very good runner, had a 35 on the ACT, and was very explicit with admissions that he was coming to Oberlin for math and running, and he was rejected. Because like he's not, because he's, and like like I was like, what, but like he's not a good fit for this place because you
Hmm.
have to be able to plug into more areas. We want people who are going to be like a generous giving member of this community, right?
Hmm.
And that's why it's so important on your end and on the recruits end. Find out about the place.
Hmm.
Find out about the place. Like if you're looking for OTC, it's not here, right? If you're worrying about sustainability or you're looking like other kind of ways to engage in the community in the city of Oberlin, awesome. Like you're gonna love it here. You're gonna find so many opportunities to expand yourself and to give to this place. But if you think only because you run fast, throw far, jump high, that you're getting into a place and and they're going to overlook like discrepancies or unfortunate things in your transcript, it's not gonna happen. Very few coaches at selective schools have that kind of sway.
Yeah, and I think you touched on another really important piece there too, which is especially when you get into and sort of speaking more specifically to like liberal arts institutions, Division III institutions, higher academic, because of the size of those schools, I do think you have a little bit more sort of control's the wrong word, but culture is more prevalent, I think, in a lot of those places. You
Sure.
understand the types of kids that are going to succeed there. You understand the type of community that has sort of been fostered in that environment. And I think to ignore that element of it as a student is disingenuous to both sides, to your point. I think, you deserve to go to a school as a student that fits who you are or fits who you want to become. And so if you're not taking that piece of it into consideration for any school at any level, that is setting you up to not get the most out of that experience because at the end of the day, like school does cost money for everybody. That is 4 years of your life. That is a springboard into the next part of your world. And so if you're not, thinking about what do I do when I'm not actively in a class or actively on a field or on a track or whatever it might be, that's a lot of time spent, sort of subconsciously developing, for lack of a better term, that
Sure.
you want to be doing in an environment that you're excited about. And so to your point, if the only factors are I want to do math and I want to run, okay, well, a lot of places can do that. Let's find out where it's going to fit you best And maybe
Sure.
that is Oberlin, maybe that is somewhere else. And that's where you kind of have to use a little bit of nuance there. And I would argue starting the process early allows you to sort of discover that a little bit more between coaches and things like that.
And our point, like that, like in the few retention issues that we have where kids are transferring, it's almost because of that. It's just
Mm.
like someone didn't do a good enough job explaining what this place really was and what was going to be asked of them, and then like what interests the non-athletes here as well, right?
Mm.
Like, I will say this unabashedly, I'm very proud of it. Like there are as many folks at a football game as there are a symphony concert, as
Mm.
many, right? And that's awesome. That's great. And oftentimes kids are both, and that's the point of this, right? But if we don't tell kids that like, hey, the other folks that you're in class with are going to ask you really tough questions all the time, right? And are going to challenge you, right? Like if you only want to like go back to your dorm room and play video games, this ain't the right place. Like don't and if kids come here and try to do that, they're like, I'm really lonely. Like, what's going
Mm.
on here? And then they would transfer. So it's like it's really important on the coaches end as well to make sure that like we know Oberlin College, right? And we are looking for Oberlin College kids who are going to be successful here, not only in their sport, but everywhere else.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it's such a great, to your point, go in eyes wide open, understand what it is you're getting into, and if that's going to be a right fit for you. And I think that's the best advice anybody can get when they're kind of going
Yeah.
through this process. Want to shift back over really quickly to the coaches element. I had another question for you, kind of on that recruiting timeline. So you said you sort of tap in, primarily tapping into kids kind of that early, fall, junior year, things like that. Division 3 obviously has a little bit more flexibility on when you can communicate with recruits and vice versa. Is there, say I have a sophomore, he
Yeah,
knows, man, Oberlin is, oh my gosh, like I saw this
sure.
place, it just clicked for me. Is that an appreciated early
Absolutely.
contact? Okay.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite people she is now a doctor in Asheville, North Carolina. Like, I mean, like it was the oddest thing because um, both her parents were West Point grads. Both mom and
Oh.
dad came to visit in their full, and she was a sophomore in high school. And I was like, this is not going to work. We don't get a ton of Army brats, double West Pointers at Oberlin College. But like, no, like this is where she wanted to be. Lake Braddock, Virginia. Great runner, great kid, great student, but had it figured out when she was a sophomore. So yes, I mean, absolutely. I mean, like the longer our runway, the better our opportunity is to end up yielding that kid because the more they learn about this place, the more they're going to fall in love with it.
Yeah, that absolutely. And this is more just kind of on the, I guess more in your personal opinion than anything else, just because I'm kind of curious. Because we, obviously when kids start working with me, for example, right? If we know those lists of schools we want to contact as early as we can, start to build those relationships, is there, obviously there's a filtering process that goes into this. You meet different kids, there's culture fits, there's
Yeah.
personality fits, there's time obviously drives a lot of that kind of stuff and whatnot. As you sort of go through that process, I mean, is there a human nature element of like, man, I've known this person since they were a sophomore. It's hard not to kind of want to root for them in the sense that like they've reached out early, they know they've been improving on times. Maybe it's not the best number out of my recruiting class, but shoot, man, I got a kid who I know is bought in on Oberlin, and that's hard for me to ignore as I look through my recruiting class for XYZ.
No, I mean, and this is a wonderful point, Reed, right? Because that kid might not be the best runner,
Hmm.
but like they're going to make your team better, right? In some way, they're going to make the people around them that much better because they
Hmm.
love this place, they love the sport, whatever it is, And that's also one of the nice things about Division 3 is like we don't have roster size caps.
Hmm.
Right. And so we can carry a kid like that who might never go to a conference meeting, might never score, um, but are just really great citizens, really great community members who work really hard. Occasionally we'll get the walk-on kid. And like the question is like, well, it's like, like do you love to run? And like is your teammates' success as important as your own? Right.
Hmm.
If you answer those two questions, great. Like we'll do this. We can do this.
Yeah. And you made a really good point about the roster caps there. I think, Division 3 again is a very, in my opinion, very idyllic place for college sports because it feels very much like college sports still in the sense of like there's
Yeah.
access, there's opportunity. Yes, we're competing. Yes, we're pushing ourselves. Yes, it's not a walk in the park to go and do this by any stretch of the imagination, but I think the theme is opportunity, right? Kids that want to go and push and have that experience can have that experience. in a lot of different places and in a lot of different ways, which then sort of relays to my next question, which is obviously the vast majority of college sports world has sort of been enamored, maybe is the right or wrong word to use, with the House v. NCAA legislation, which is affecting obviously Division I and those
Yeah.
opt-in schools. For y'all as a Division III institution, I mean, is that a total like that's over here, we don't think about it? Is that a hey, we have kids that are going to be coming off of roster caps that may be better fits for us that we want to identify? Is that I'm just curious from coaching, admin, whatever, like
Sure.
how does D3 even look at that sort of happening over there?
I mean, it is a little bit over there still, but we're seeing an uptick in the transfer portal,
Mhm.
like for like kids losing spots in Division I rosters, and looking elsewhere. We're seeing that, and that's too bad. But again, like we're if like we have. I think we're bringing in maybe 5 or 6 transfers from this past year, and like I will say, unfortunately, like I'm assuming that number is going to go up, right?
Mhm.
Unfortunately, because like I don't want anyone to lose a spot. I like
Right.
you chose a place. I'd love to see you graduate from that place, but
Mhm.
like there are really great homes elsewhere where you can still do this thing.
Yeah.
From like the NIL perspective. Yeah, like it's like yes, like we have students who have NIL deals, but they're very reflective of who they are and what they
Mhm.
value. Like folks who have relationships with restaurants in town, but people who have relationships with causes that are really important to them as well. Uh,
Mhm.
and so in some ways it is the best of both worlds, right? It is not a necessity. Like kids aren't clamoring after them. No one's saying, coach, where's my $5,000? But there are opportunities out there because like people want to be on our team. Like people want to be
Mhm.
on the side of the kids who are really excited about environmental justice or really excited about being being members of certain affinity groups or communities. Like it's really cool to see these kids get put on pedestals and to be representatives for those things. And great. And we're never going to stop them from doing that. But we're also not going to be out in front of with a collective, I imagine, either.
Yeah, and I think to your point, I think it opens up an opportunity for those kids too to be really purpose driven in the things that they're talking about, and it really just unlocks their ability to connect more directly with places that they would, to your point, kind of otherwise already want to be connected to. They can just use a platform that's unique to them during this time to kind of maximize those opportunities or maximize that connection or whatever it might be. So again, it's not that you don't have the access to it, it just looks a little bit differently than, having your agent, for example. I think Brian Kelly made some comment the other day where like half of his team and him all have the same sport agent, which is just a hilarious thing to say out loud. But like it's none of that kind of stuff that you're necessarily looking at. Um, you did bring up the transfer portal though, and that is something I kind of want to ask you about. Just again, we can use Oberlin as obviously our case study here. You mentioned there was about 5 or 6 transfers coming in.
Yeah.
How prevalent is the transfer portal at that Division III level? We hear about it again all the time up here at these schools that are on TV and top 45 and money, whatever else. But in the real world with everybody else, kind of
Yeah.
what does that look like for you guys? And is it, to your point, more of a hey, they got here, they realized it wasn't a good fit, so we need to go, or is it really sort of this kind of free marketplace, I guess you could say?
Well, I mean, like again, we're not seeing that many kids leave. We're
Hmm.
just not. And that is really a testament to the job that both our coaches and admissions is doing, right? Like bringing the right folks come here, and that's
Hmm.
great. But it really is like I would say coaches are spending more time on the portal, looking at folks who want a different kind of opportunity, different experience. Like I meet regularly with our women's soccer coach, and I think that she may have gotten 3 from the past year and thinks it's going to be a gold mine for her. And that's great. That's great because but she's still looking for the right kids. Like,
Hmm.
folks for whom like they had a bad experience somewhere else. Maybe like there, it was a bait and switch potentially for them in the recruiting process and showing up on campus. And like they like their eyes are more wide open. They know better questions to ask, and this is a much better home for them.
Hmm. Yeah, and that makes a ton of sense. And again, I think to your point, the way that we would hope the transfer portal would be used, right? An opportunity for
Right.
kids to move to better
Exactly.
places and better
Yes.
opportunities when they realize that that exists somewhere else, as opposed to necessarily just using it as kind of a throughput, if you will, in certain places.
To make more money somewhere else. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, well, shoot, yeah, Ray, I really appreciate your time. One of the things I like to do at the end of anytime I talk with anybody is, you have probably forgotten more about Division III than I have learned in the time that I've done this. I like to think I spend a lot of time on that, but I don't have 25 years of experience of kind of experiencing it. So, is there a comment that you wish you could have made in this
Mm.
conversation that we had, or a question that you wished I would have asked that you think is important about what it is you do or what it is you really care about that should be shared?
No, one, I think you've done a great job. I think it's been a really thorough
Well, thank you.
conversation. I want to emphasize and re-emphasize the extent to which, at least at Oberlin College, Division III coaches are teachers.
Hmm.
Yeah. They are invested in the lives of the students and the athletes they work with, well beyond their playing days. Again, I've been here for 22 years. I am really lucky enough that like 3 of my former athletes are on the faculty now here at Oberlin College,
Oh, wow.
right? And to kind of like to see that kind of arc, and like it's like selfishly to say like they're here because I made a phone call. Like they're here because I recruited them, and like the experience that we were able to provide them through their athletic lives helped build them into the tremendous scholars, leaders, everything they're doing in their lives. And that I believe is the norm here, at least, is coaches they care, they lead with compassion. They want the best for the folks on their teams throughout the season, but their entire lives.
Yeah, I think for those of us that work in the space, and I think for any parent that sees their kid go to college for even a day, realizes that that is probably the most underrated aspect of what it means to be a college athlete. So I love that you highlighted that, and that's awesome. Well, Ray, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, looking forward to staying in touch and keep moving on all the fun things we're working on.
This has been fun for me, Reid. Thank you.